How's it going, and welcome to No Fun Allowed's Guide series on Curse of Strahd, a 5th edition module. We are continuing along with Castle Ravenloft Part 4, and I don't even know how many parts there are going to be. Of course, there's going to be a ton of spoilers. Players don't watch this. DMs don't want added insight. Go ahead and stick around because there's so much to cover here. And here we are. We're starting off with a secret room hidden behind a fireplace. The thing about this is, with all the other secret rooms, it's reasonable that they'd be able to find them, right? Because they could go ahead and start touching the walls, and they could go ahead and start doing this, doing that. But unfortunately, if they see a fireplace, they may not have the inclination to go ahead and say, hey, let's put out the fire and look at the, the wall behind it. So it's very, very likely that they don't even discover this. So here's the thing. What if we want our players to discover this? How do we actually present this as an achievable goal? I mean, besides them actively searching around, you do have to somewhat force your hand. They, of course, can get to the areas back here, 38, 39, 40, 41. They can get to these areas without using that secret door, but, it's a little bit of a stretch. So, if you really, really, really want them to get back here, I would go ahead and have some sort of a nudge back here, whether that be if they make a perception check that's not good enough, then go ahead and say, oh, you notice that, that fireplace seems rather too large to be just any ordinary fireplace. Maybe be vague enough, but not give it away. Make sure that you're not giving them freebies, because never give players freebies. They always feel cheated and it's not deserved. But when they get something themselves, they feel like it's earned, and that's awesome. So always make sure to keep that in consideration. But that's, once again, only if you really want them to come back here because there's something cool back here, or you want them to 100% this place, or whatever the case may be. Make sure you keep that in mind. Area 38 itself is the false treasury. When they make their way through here, they'll be able to discover, yeah, this is cool, this is a treasury, right? And if they only, whichever way they come from the left or from the right, they may think that this is the end and this is just a, treasure chest. Which is funny because if they're coming from the fireplace, it's like, oh yeah, it's totally, just a treasury right behind a fireplace. Who wouldn't have that? And if they're coming here from the right side, then they might just stop here and say, oh yeah, this is cool. And not know that there's a raging fireplace, not feet away. What's fun here is that there is a trap on the chest. If the chest is moved, then a sleeping gas will fill the air, and everyone must make a DC 18 Constitution saving throw or be paralyzed for 4 hours. This is a save or suck. There is no in between here. If you succeed, then it's no issue, but if you fail, you're paralyzed for 4 hours straight. That is really, really bad. What's interesting here, though, is it states that if they are paralyzed, meaning the entire party, if they are all paralyzed, then some witches are going to come from Area 56 and drag them all the way to Area 50. That'll have its own fun set of challenges and a fun step to go along with that. But I'm willing to bet more than likely, if you've got a larger party, then more often than not, one person is going to succeed. Obviously, that can always be different if the party is split up, and if you just have a group of really unlucky people. It is, possible that everyone fails, and then, eventually they're going to be paralyzed and brought to somewhere else, but we'll getting into Area 50 later on. So what's fun here about the secret door, as it goes into detail, is it does, once again, have a little reminiscence of old school play, where it states that a character can find the secret door, but in order for them to actually open it, there is no check at all. They need to do something specific. They need to do it through trial and error. And I like that. I like old school play where your players have to describe what they're doing. Do they lift the rug? Do they, move the poker around, etc., etc. I like that stuff. Not a lot of people do. So I would go ahead and say that if you have a group that doesn't appreciate that style of play and they'd rather just roll for it, then just go ahead and have them roll a DC 15 investigation check or whatever you see fit. So we also get information about the secret door pertaining to the east wall, and with that there is a fun little design. If the torch is taken from the skeleton's hand and is placed back in the empty sconce, the secret door swings inward, revealing Area 39 and beyond. Removing the torch from its sconce at any time causes the secret door to close and lock shut, becoming sealed as before. Characters can locate the secret door normally, but a successful check doesn't reveal the mechanism to open it. They can only be opened through trial and error or by knock or whatever. So theoretically, it is possible that you could have people become trapped in here, which is hilarious. It is technically possible that, you know, a few people could get locked in this room and not have a way to get out because they're just too bad at figuring out traps and they roll terribly and stuff like that, which is hilarious. In fact, that is how the person in here died, and they presumably just, you know, starved to death. So it makes sense. Hopefully, if you've got a large party, that doesn't come to happen because, you know, hopefully someone's going to save the day, or, you know, hopefully they have some way out or whatever, you know, something. But it is funny to think that there is a possibility that people could get starved to death. In Area 39, the Hall of Webs, you'll never guess why it's called the Hall of Webs. Because it's full of webs, of course. Most of the hall is full of these giant spider webs. Characters who stray from the unobstructed path through the webs risk becoming stuck. And webs, for a reminder, any creature that makes their way through there must make a DC 12 dexterity saving throw or be restrained, and then they have to make DC 12 athletics or acrobatics checks to get out. And of course, you can destroy webs, but if you do that, then there could be some fun shenanigans there, like if you light these things on fire, then maybe that'll make this room become very unpleasant. In this room, of course, we have the secret door leading to the Treasury, but there's also the secret door that leads to Area 31B, the elevator shaft. In Area 40, we have the Belfry. Your players make the way in here, and they can see that a single narrow path leads to the dark center of the room where a rope dangles high above, and the rope is just sitting there waiting to be rung. And if it is rung, the sound causes 5 giant spiders to drop from the webs and attack. The spiders attack only if they are attacked or if the bell sounds. And the webs here are the dangerous one, because if your players do get restrained and they're going against giant spiders, if you're restrained, then the spiders have advantage against them, and of course the players have disadvantage on doing pretty much anything. So even though giant spiders typically at this point should not be that big of a challenge, especially if they are levels, you know, 8, 9, 10, whatever, you know, being restrained is kind of a big deal. Also located in this room is the secret door that leads to Area 41, the real Treasury. In Area 41, the Treasury here, we actually get a pretty unique description. It does state that as they walk through, your players will be able to see that the dome ceiling 40 feet above is painted black and sparkles with a display of stars in an unfamiliar constellation. Your players may think right immediately that, oh, is this like, you know, the actual sky above them or what's going on here? But no, this is just a whole bunch of gems and crystals that are embedded into the ceiling. So the tower the players see before them isn't just any ordinary tower that got constructed inside here. It is actually a Darren's instant fortress. However, Strahd is the only one that knows the command word to alter its shape and size, and this can't be done until every bit of treasure inside it is removed. On a Darren's instant fortress, you can in fact make your way in here through magic, but of course the arrow slits are very, very tiny, only, you know, 2 feet tall, 4 inches wide, etc., etc. So without any sort of misty step or whatever the case, it's going to be impossible to get in here unless Strahd opens it up for them. However, creative people are going to get creative, and they're probably just going to go ahead and climb on top of this fortress, and then they'll see that there is a trapdoor on top. And if they make their way inside, they're going to see the huge treasure hoard here. 50,000 copper, 10,000 silver, 10,000 gold, 1,000 platinum, whole bunch of gems, a shield of the silver dragon. What even is that? It is a +2 shield, but also gives you a +2 to initiative. That is an incredibly strong weapon. And also very important here is it does not require attunement. So even if there's a fight going on in this room, if someone picks this thing up, that's an immediate bonus right there. +2 AC, really strong. Included in this treasury includes even more gold, an alchemy jug, a helm of brilliance, a +1 rod of the pack keeper, potion of greater healing. And of course, if their fortunes of Ravenloft guide them here, it is going to be lying atop the coins on the ground floor. But also interesting is if the card reading indicates the encounter with Strahd is here, he is perched atop the tower. Funnily enough, when I was a player in this module, this is where we encountered Strahd, and it was a troll. You know, a tower within a tower, that's pretty hilarious, honestly. So in regards to the Darren's Instant Fortress, of course, if you want to have your players have the option of opening this thing, it is next to impossible because, as written, only Strahd knows the command word, in which case it's going to die with him because it's more than likely your players aren't going to interrogate him. So where could they learn that bit of information? I think that the answer is actually very close by. I think that if you want to go ahead and give them the possibility of learning the command word, maybe you could go ahead and have it in the study, which is located right down the hall. If you want them to be able to open up this thing, then you can go ahead and make them have a roll of a D100, and on a 1 through 5, they potentially learn some random keywords that Strahd may have written down somewhere, and they're located in here. And they could be, you know, words written within some margins or as some bookmark or something. Allowing your players to organically learn some information that can be used later on, or retroactively after they know the fact, is always a fun time. In Area 42, we have the King's Bedchamber. Your players make their way inside of here, and there they see her, the person that they got the quest from right in the beginning of the campaign. Except for your players have totally forgotten she exists, because that's what players do. You give them a quest in like sessions 1 or 2, and they forget all about it. Gertruda is hanging out in here, and she is just chilling. Now here is where we get some information about Gertruda. She is living in fairy tale land. She unfortunately grew up in a sheltered home and decided she didn't want to be dealing with that anymore. She finally slipped away from her home and made her way to the castle, drawn by its majesty. And it's here where Strahd invited her in and allows her to just chill in here. So the fun thing about role-playing Gertruda here is that she is incredibly oblivious to the dangers of the world. She doesn't see them because she unfortunately had a terrible upbringing, being basically locked away in her home and just having mom tell fairy tales. So I went about this a long time ago in the Village of Barovia video. Make sure that you present Gertruda not as any sort of young person. Make sure that she is clearly an adult, because if she's a kid, this is creepy. So don't do it. So make sure that she's, you know, in her late 20s, maybe even 30s. You know, just make her not as young. Your players find Gertruda in here, and they may eventually discover that she's not undead, and she's not willing to go ahead and attack the party. So now the players might find themselves in this unique predicament where they might try and save Gertruda. But of course, she is not going to be of any help at all whatsoever. She's merely a commoner, and of course she's probably going to say and do dumb things, which is hilarious. What is also unique about the text here is that, fortunately for her, Strahd has not yet bitten her, though he intends to. If he can do so while the characters look on helplessly, so much the better. So that obviously gives us a crazy, sad moment where your players are trying to protect Gertruda and they're meandering about the castle. Then all of a sudden Strahd just takes her and bites her right in front of them. You know, pretty, you know, sucky, but that's something that Strahd would do. And because Strahd loves having secret doors in his castle here, he's got a secret door right next to the wall, right next to his bed. Gertruda does not know that this room exists. In Area 43, we have the bath chamber. When your players make their way inside of here, they're gonna see it. A bathtub full of blood. The blood in the tub isn't real, however. It's a manifestation of Varushka's tormented spirit. Varushka was a maid that lived in Castle Ravenloft, and she took her own life when Strahd began feeding on her, denying him the chance to turn her into a vampire spawn. So obviously we can infer that this happened 400 years ago. So this is going to be some really creepy stuff here. When your players make their way in here, they're going to see the blood begin to explode out, and blood pour off its pale flesh, bony limbs, and stringy hair as it scuttles away. The creature that erupts from the tub is no more real than the blood. It can't be harmed and doesn't attack. It scuttles around the ceiling, disappearing into Area 44 through one of the archways. Once there, it disappears. So you can totally have that creepy moment, your players making their way through here, the lightning striking down, then all of a sudden they see in a flash, they see this creepy blood creature erupt from the pool, and then it scuttles away, crawling along the floor, and then if your players try and pursue this thing, they will find nothing. Very, very terrifying. They may be thinking to themselves like, oh man, is there like some blood creature that's going to be stalking us now? Ugh. In Area 44 here, we have the closet. The walls are aligned with all these hooks. 28 capes and 16 sets of fine clothes are stored here. So obviously Strahd's balling. It makes sense, right? Strahd would have a huge ton of clothes here because if he gets attacked all the time by all these adventurers, his clothes are probably getting jacked up, right? And also, you can totally have it here where he has a whole different assortment of costumes that he would adorn trying to fit in with other society. Such as he could have the very same clothes that Vasily von Holtz wears. Or any number of NPCs that you have Strahd impersonate. There's a ton of great possibilities to be had with this closet, and a ton of possibilities for amazing jump scares. You can obviously go super creepy with it by having, you know, clothes of all the NPCs that your players may know. Very, very creepy stuff. In Area 45, we have the Hall of Heroes. This place acts as a sort of junction, as you can come to a lot of different areas from here and make your way throughout. And it's a very unique looking place. As your players look down, they'll be able to see a whole bunch of statues, 10 in total. Of course, what's fun here is that the faces are stoic and expressionless, but whenever the lightning flashes, their expressions change to utter horror until the hall goes dark again. That's pretty cool. You can definitely have that, you know, haunted mansion feel where your players are making their way through here and then all of a sudden lightning strikes and then, you know, the terrible visage. Pretty fun. What's also very fun here is that the statues are imbued with the spirits of Strahd's ancestors, all of which grieve over the termination of their bloodline. Each spirit will answer one question if addressed directly. The spirit's answers are always vague and short, and there is a 20% chance that the spirit's answer is wrong. So if you don't have a D100 on you, then just simply roll a D20, and on a 1 through 4, then the answer is wrong. So how the heck would your players even have the inclination to ask one of these statues a question? Really, as written, there is no way. I would go ahead and say that maybe you have the statues somewhat come to life in a sense. Maybe you have them lament and say, oh, our bloodline is ruined now. And maybe just say like literally one thing. And then at that point, after it says one thing, then they can understand that they can ask these things one question. And after asking that one question, make sure that statue no longer moves again. So that way they know they only have 10 questions in total. In Area 46, we have the parapets. If it is nice and stormy weather, then of course rain is going to be raining down upon the players as they walk around. The walkway covers a huge part of the castle course, but something very important to note here is that if the characters loiter on the parapets for too long, more than 5 minutes, they encounter Strahd's animated armor, making the rounds. It patrols the parapets day and night. Under the darkened sky, the characters without dark vision, people are more likely to hear the armor because it is clattering, metal armor. Makes sense. It'd have disadvantage on stealth checks, right? So what's really cool about this armor is that this is the very armor that Strahd wore into battle when he was alive, and is now currently headless because Strahd didn't wear a helmet. Helmets are for NPCs. He's a main guy in his own world, right? This armor is painted burgundy and adorned with golden angelic motifs. Pretty awesome stuff. But of course, Strahd imbued this thing to automate on its own, and it's totally evil and is totally awesome. So what's cool about this armor is the fact that it, one, wields a greatsword on its own, so it can just, do whatever, attack pretty well. But also the fact that this thing has native lightning abilities. Through its attack, it can imbue a little bit of lightning damage on the greatsword attack, but it can also just raise its hand and shoot out some shocking bolts out to 60 feet away. That is really cool, and the attack roll is made with advantage if someone is wearing metal armor. So, of course, this thing on its own is just totally awesome. 21 AC, 112 HP. It's got a fun stat block here. But here's the fun thing. A lot of people, myself included, love the idea of this thing not attacking when the players arrive. In fact, a lot of people like the idea of this thing simply standing still and presenting itself as a suit of armor that your players could go ahead and adorn. Now, here's the thing. If someone goes ahead and sees this plate armor and says, oh, this must be magical plate armor, this looks awesome, I'm going to go ahead and wear it, then they can go ahead and take the time to put this thing on. But of course, what's going to happen is you go ahead and give them this armor. You go ahead and say, yeah, this is, this is a +3 plate armor, and, this and that, and they're going to love it. And then you can have that epic twist. When they finally go to fight Strahd wearing this suit of armor, Strahd is going to simply say, hey, armor, and snap his finger, and then all of a sudden the armor is going to go ahead and hold back the person. That is a fun thing to do. Obviously, a lot of people take that a lot of different ways. Maybe you go ahead and say that the PC is now at disadvantage on everything because they are restrained and can't do anything. Maybe you go ahead and say that they are under the effect of essentially like a hold person. You can do a lot of fun things with that. But that is a really cool design, right? You reward your players for a little bit of time, but in the end, you punish them for, obviously doing the dumb thing. And of course, something very important to note here is that the armor can't be salvaged if it is reduced to 0 HP. It being a suit of armor, it's not going to feel pain, it's not going to care. So if you do have this thing go ahead and attack the party, and your players go ahead and beat this thing up, they may say, oh, it's still plate armor, right? No, you beat the thing up, it's worthless now. In Area 47 here, we have the Portrait of Strahd. Your players make their way up here through, pretty much the only way they're getting through here is one of these spiral staircases, either 48 or 21. Theoretically, they could come here through, I guess, the window through Area 49, but that's pretty much less likely. So this is actually a pretty scary trap here. Your players make their way through this location, and they see this beautiful rug, and they see this Portrait of Strahd, and they see there's a door, and they may go ahead and just start meandering about. That rug is going to come to life and start smothering people. And rugs of smothering are very dangerous because they have that damage transference. If you attack someone that is being held together, that rug is going to take half the damage, but the person underneath is going to take half the damage, and that's very bad. So this Guardian Portrait here is going to spring to life, or whatever semblance of construct it is, and is going to strike out if the players get attacked by the rug or if the players attack the rug. So this thing is actually somewhat scary to a degree because, yeah, it's only got a 5 AC. You literally have to roll a 1 to miss this thing. There is, at any point when you get to this thing, you have to only roll a 2 or better to hit this thing. Only has 22 HP, so it's more than likely going to get destroyed pretty soon. But here's the thing. These spells are scary, right? Crown of Madness can mean that PCs are attacking one another. Hypnotic Pattern is scary because people can be taken out of the fight. Telekinesis, people can be thrown all about. Counterspell, if someone is going to cast a really powerful spell. You know, these spells are very, very obtrusive to a party and can actually lead to a very deadly encounter, even though it is only just a stupid little rug and a stupid little portrait. So here is also where your players would be able to climb out of the elevator shaft. As you can see, there is a trap door in the floor here, and if you open this thing up and the elevator trap hasn't been sprung, you'll basically just see a 170-foot deep shaft. Well, you wouldn't be able to see that, but you know. But if the elevator trap has been sprung, then they'll be able to see the elevator right there. And of course, if your players are inside the elevator trap, then they can go ahead and climb their way out of here. So like I said, even though it is just a stupid little rug and a stupid little portrait, with a combination of incredibly bad rolls, this is actually very, very scary fight. And that's the thing, right? It's not really that much of a fight. The Guardian Portrait isn't doing damage natively, but it can do damage, right? If your players, for some terrible reason, open up that trapdoor in the middle of the fight, and then the Guardian Portrait can, in fact, theoretically throw someone down using the telekinetic ray. And if the Rug of Smothering has someone, then, you know, some terrible fun things can happen with that, right? In Area 48, we have the Offstair. This stairway rises from Area 47, past Area 54, and all the way to Area 57. Of course, it just connects more and more of the spire of Castle Ravenloft. In Area 49, we have the Lounge. In here, your players will be able to meet Escher, one of Strahd's brides? It doesn't specifically state what their relationship is, but it does say that Strahd has shown favor to him in the past. So we obviously infer a lot of things from that. Escher is feeling neglected as of late and has retreated here until Strahd's mood improves. If attacked, he hurls himself out of the window and gets the heck out of there. What is fun to note here is that if attacked, Escher will lead the players to Strahd all the way through Castle Ravenloft if need be, because of course he wants to save himself and he wants to get these people killed. But here's the thing, it doesn't natively need to come to combat. Yes, if you have a group of door kickers that see undead kill undead, it is going to be like that. But if you have a group that likes to roleplay out a lot of things, then they open up this door, and then there they see this person who's not attacking them immediately. And that's already a good sign, right? In a conversation, Escher will display wit and a hint of melancholy. Beneath his arch mood is a dread that Strahd is growing bored of him, and he will be locked away in the catacombs. So I will be doing a whole video on the cast of Castle Ravenloft because Escher and many of the named NPCs here are an absolute delight to roleplay as and really make this undead place come to life. So don't worry about that, but that will be after this series, of course. You know, there is a lot of great things to be had with role-playing out with all these individuals. Interesting note here, if your players decide to open up a window, there is a 50% chance that a vampire spawn comes crawling in here. So what it doesn't state here is what happens if your players open up a window and Escher is still here. That could be interesting, right? Your players are talking with Escher and then all of a sudden one of them decides to open up a window and all of a sudden a vampire spawn shows up. So what is the vampire spawn going to do? Is the vampire spawn going to say, hey Escher, why aren't you killing these people? Or is Escher going to go ahead and, you know, rebuke the vampire spawn? What is going to happen here? That should be entirely left up to you. I think it can go down one of three ways though, pretty simple off the bat. You one, have the vampire spawn say, hey Escher, let's kill these guys. Two, the vampire spawn says, hey Escher, let's kill these guys, and then Escher says, nah, screw you. Or three, the vampire spawn knows all of this and kind of just pokes their head in and says, I'm not dealing with this, and then goes away. I think there's a lot of fun roleplay elements to whichever case you decide. Some interesting titles on the books located around here include Embalming, the Lost Art, Life Among the Undead, Learning to Cope, Castle Building 101, and Goats of the Balanock Mountains. Should your players decide to murder poor Escher, then he is going to have some nice loot on him. In total, he's got a whopping 1,000 gold worth of jewelry. Pretty cool. In Area 50, we have the guest room. Your players make their way in here, and during the day, there is nothing. However, during the night, should they attempt to make a short rest, 1d4 Barovian witches will appear, and then will try and subdue the party by casting sleep spells. So, if you have a high-level party, an individual sleep spell is going to be worthless. But if you have a party that's getting dinged up, you know, just battered all about, then yes, in fact, those sleep spells could theoretically knock some people out. Also remember, this is an area that witches take people to if they are knocked out, so we don't really get too much to go alongside that. Once again, I will be doing a whole series on role-playing out the Castle Ravenloft, and I know that people getting knocked out and being brought to this little guest room will certainly be a fun treat. In Area 51, the closet, your players make their way inside of here, and the only thing that stands out is that there is a dusty black cloak that hangs from one hook. The reason for that is because the witches placed it here because that is the hook that is for the trapdoor that leads to Area 56. The trapdoor can be found with an easy DC 13 perception check, and locating the trapdoor doesn't enable someone to discover the opening mechanism. You have to do it yourself, so you just go ahead and say, I pull on the lever, and go ahead and play out the meme of wrong lever. Area 52, we have the smokestack. So all the stuff on the rooftop here normally doesn't apply to most campaigns. Most people aren't adventurous enough to go ahead and climb on top of the castle. But of course, it has been known that some people do some crazy shenanigans. Area 52 here can be accessed by the fireplace in Area 37. A creature that starts its turn in the chimney, however, takes 1d6 point of fire damage if the fire is lit. Area 53, the rooftop. Your players start walking all around here, and then, yeah, they can discover some of the fun stuff here. You can go ahead and show off the fun little flavor text here. However, if you are walking about here, a DC 15 acrobatic check is required to traverse the roof. A check succeeds automatically if the characters are crawling, but if the check fails by 5 or more, the character slides off the edge and falls 40 feet to the castle parapet, and of course it's 4d6 points of damage, so pretty bad. And would you look at that, we covered quite a lot. We're already at number 53. Only up to 88, but I promise you that a lot of information is coming later on, specifically when we get to the catacombs. That one is going to be super busy. A ton of things going on there. A ton of things just jam-packed into one area. But it is an absolute blast and an absolute delight, and I can't wait to start getting into that. That is going to do it for this one, though. Go ahead and tell me, do you imagine your players are going to be hopping onto the rooftop of Castle Ravenloft? I know for a fact that a fight on top of Castle Ravenloft would certainly be a pretty epic one. The lightning flashing down, the thunder storming ahead, and Strahd just standing there menacingly. Oh, that could be an absolute blast. Or do you think your players are going to avoid going up there and just fight in the castle like normal? Because that's what normal people do. Go ahead and tell me these things because I want to know. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my awesome patrons up here. You guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you so very much. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.